Hey guys, this is Kevin for Pixavert.com. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at what options you've got if you want to get a graphics card for use with Photoshop in 2019. Now, I'm going to be trying to keep things nice and simple in this video, but if you want things super short, super quick, take a look at the link in the description. Those will take you directly to the recommended cards for this video. If you want a little bit more of a detailed exploration of the ideas, we're going to be doing that in 3 stages. We're going to be looking at the general idea of what makes a decent card for Photoshop. That's going to come last. We're going to be taking a look at what makes a decent card if you want to use the 3D graphics inside of Photoshop. And we're also going to be taking a look at what you need if you want to run a 10-bit display from Photoshop. Now, in the past, if you wanted to run a 10-bit display using Photoshop, you needed to get one of 2 cards. You needed to get an nVidia Quadro card, or you needed to get an AMD Radeon Pro card. These are the types of cards that you find inside of professional workstations. And these cards, well, they're designed for stability. People who work with Photoshop professionally generally place a high value on stability. And the drivers for the Quadro cards and the Radeon Pro cards are really designed to run as stable as possible. Now, the Quadro cards, the nVidia Quadro cards, run from about $150, $200 all the way to thousands of dollars. The same applies for the Radeon Pro cards. So you've got something of a limited range. So if you want to get your workstation or desktop to be running with a professional card, one of these entry-level Quadro or Radeon Pro cards will be just fine for you. Up to 3 monitors, 4K, that's pretty decent. If you want something more powerful, the prices of these cards do tend to race away pretty quickly. So if you haven't got a wallet that can sustain purchases of thousands of pounds, you may find that you want an alternative. We have an alternative, and things have changed a little bit this year. Last year, nVidia started producing a driver for their gaming cards that was aimed at creatives, and they called the new drivers creator-ready drivers. The new creator-ready drivers were renamed studio drivers, and those are the ones that in July of 2019 were updated so that they can now run 10-bit monitors from Photoshop and also from Adobe Premiere Pro. So you no longer have to get one of the professional cards in order to run a 10-bit monitor. That's a huge, huge development in my view, and it's going to make life a lot easier for people who want to do a bit of gaming and also who want to run Photoshop. Now, the details for which cards actually support the new studio drivers will be in the description, but basically if you're running one of the old 10100 series cards from nVidia, or if you're running one of the new RTX cards, you should be able to download one of the new drivers and be able to set up 10-bit display from Photoshop without the need to change your graphics card. Let's move on to the question of which graphics cards you want to use if you want to be running the 3D features inside of Photoshop, or there's something new. Photoshop and Lightroom introduced a new feature earlier this year, which is called Enhanced Details. This is a feature that allows you to increase the resolution of an image using artificial intelligence. And this is something that if you're running this on a CPU, it's going to take you a minute. It's going to take you 5 minutes to work on a single picture. But if you're working with the graphics card and you've got a pretty decent graphics card, it can take 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. It can happen really quickly using the parallel processing in graphics cards. This is something I've been waiting for a long time. I really want to see artificial intelligence. I really want to see parallel processing being used inside of Photoshop. Now, if this feature is of interest to you, you definitely want to be looking at getting a decent, powerful graphics card. And again, you probably are going to be looking at the gaming cards. You can use the professional cards, the Quadro and the AMD Radeon Pro. That's fine. If you can afford those, go ahead with those. But if you want to get something a lot less expensive, well, you can start off with something like the Radeon RX 560 or 570. The Radeon RX 570 starts at about $130. That's a really good card. It's got 4 gigabytes of VRAM. It will power most games. It will power Photoshop. It will allow you to work in 3D inside of Photoshop. If you want something a bit more powerful, the Radeon RX 580, 8 gigabytes, costs about $190. This is an awesome graphics card, under $200, and it will give you practically all the performance you want with Photoshop. However, for this video, I'm going to be making one key recommendation. I'm going to be recommending the nVidia GTX 1660. This costs about $230. It is by far and away the best entry-level gaming card out there. Now, in previous years, you had the GTX 1060. This was then replaced by a completely new format of card known as the RTX 2060. Things get a little bit confusing because after the RTX 2060, they came out the GTX 1660, which turns out to be the actual successor to the GTX 1060. Now, what are all those numbers? If you don't understand those numbers, don't worry about it. The 1060 was the entry-level gaming card for nVidia. The 2060, RTX 2060, is about $100 more expensive than the 1060. So the 1660 is the kind of compromise. The RTX card actually uses a completely new architecture. It's evolved to use artificial intelligence. It has real-time ray tracing, all kinds of awesome stuff. Now, the RTX cards are pretty expensive. They are excellent for gaming. However, they have a lot of features that we don't really need yet inside of Photoshop. The enhanced details operation inside of Adobe Camera Raw or inside of Lightroom do benefit from the RTX features found in these modern nVidia cards. But I honestly think you're going to be paying about $100 more for an RTX 2060 over the price of a GTX 1660. That's why I'm making the 1660 the top recommendation. I think at the entry level for the gaming cards, it is by far and away the best value. Now, if you are someone who's building a computer for use over the next 3 to 5 years, you might want to get one of the RTX cards, the RTX 2070, the RTX 2080. In that case, if there is further adoption of the RTX features inside of Photoshop, you'll be able to benefit from that. For most people, if you're not using enhanced details or the 3D features inside of Photoshop, and you have no intention of using the video processing features inside of Photoshop, you might want to go with an entry-level graphics card. Now, the entry-level graphics cards for Photoshop range from about $30 to about $150, and about $50 is where the sweet spot is for most of these cards. I would recommend getting one of these cards if you want to make use of those features inside of Photoshop that are enabled only if you have a separate graphics card. So some menu items inside of Photoshop are grayed out and not available unless you have a graphics card. Those features will become activated as soon as you install a graphics card and turn the settings on for using the graphics card acceleration. Generally speaking, the more you use Photoshop, the more you want to have a graphics card to enhance your experience of using the software. The other thing to bear in mind is that if you're going to use a PC that has onboard graphics and you're not going for a separate graphics card, you're going to use some of the system RAM for your graphics. So you may end up using 2 gigabytes of your system RAM to power your graphics. And that means that the price difference between a system that has onboard graphics and one that uses a discrete graphics card is not quite as great as you might think. I'm going to have a link to a couple of entry-level graphics cards that you might want to use for Photoshop. These are not spectacular. They're going to cost about $50. And if it was down to me, rather than spending $50 on a fairly basic bitch entry-level graphics card, I would rather go for the $130 Radeon RX 570 card. that one is going to be like 10 times more powerful than the entry-level cards. It's costing you 2 or 3 times as much, but you're getting a lot more power. And if you do any kind of gaming whatsoever, that one will look after you, whilst the entry-level graphics cards, they're not going to be doing much for you in terms of gaming. But that's down to personal preference. So I want to keep it nice and simple, so we're going to leave it at that. Look at the links in the description if you want to get some ideas of what's available out there. I love reading your comments, and I'm going to try to address some of the questions that were raised in previous videos in my next video, which is going to be a more general computing video for Photoshop. However, I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button. Leave your comments in the comments down below. Hopefully they're going to be positive comments, but whatever. But if you agree, disagree, just leave your comment. I love reading the comments. That's going to be it for this one. I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye. Ten-bit displays with Photoshop and other professional software. That was a really long introduction.
Let's move on to the question of which graphics cards you want to use if you want to be running the 3D features inside of Photoshop, or there's something new.